Well, dear friends, this is our last lecture. This is Exodus 32 to 40. It's about the golden calf and the ritual decalogue and the finale, really. So, I'd like to do 4 things in our lecture today. The first thing I'd like to do is talk about the golden calf in chapter 32. Then I'd like to talk about the renewal of the covenant, the ritual decalogue, chapter 33 and the following. Then the finale of the book, which is the building of the temple, of the sanctuary. And the fourth thing is just a word or two about what sort of God emerges from the book of Exodus. So first thing, what's this golden calf episode all about? Well, at first glance, it looks pretty straightforward, doesn't it? During the absence of Moses for 40 days and 40 nights on the mountain, the Israelites down below grow restive. They persuade Aaron to make a statue of a young bull, and they worship it. As it says in Psalm 106, verse 19 and the following, this is what happens. They made a calf at Horeb, Sinai, performed prostrations to a smelted thing, exchanging the one who was their glory for the image of a grass-eating ox. Isn't that wonderful? Exchange the God who is their glory for the image of a grass-eating ox. Very cynical, but beautifully so. Well, Moses then is told by Yahweh what's happening down below, and he comes down, he smashes the 10 Commandments, and the people are punished. And yet, as we look at it more closely, it's not quite as simple as that. For example, the bull, the image that's being created, that's being made and fashioned, is that in contrast to Yahweh? Or is it perhaps an image of Yahweh? Now, you might be surprised by that, but listen to this. So they took all their gold rings from their ears and brought them to Aaron, and he took them from their hands, and in a mould melted the metal down and cast an effigy of a calf. Here is your God, Israel, they cried, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Tomorrow will be a feast in honour of Yahweh. It's not that this is an image of Yahweh. It's quite possible that this is like the cherubim, and this is like the base of a statue. This is like a base where Yahweh will reside, as Yahweh resides on the Ark of the Covenant. And we can look a little bit and see that that is exactly what happened in the northern kingdom. Now we remember, of course, that this episode is being put together around the year 500, 600 BC. Now the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom were after Solomon, and they lasted for 300 years. And the northern kingdom collapsed in 721 BC, the southern kingdom in 587, 86 BC. So they were from the time of Solomon around the year 900 to 700 or 600. So that's way back in the past for the writers now. But way back in the past, something interesting happened. If we look at 1 Kings, the book of the Kings, chapter 12, verses 26 to 30. This is what happens. The king of the north, Jeroboam, thought to himself, as things are, the kingdom will revert to the house of David, the southern kingdom. If this people continues to go up to the temple of Yahweh in Jerusalem to offer sacrifices there, the people's heart will turn back again to their Lord, Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they will put me in the north to death. So the king thought this over and then made 2 golden calves. And he said to the people, "You've been going up to Jerusalem long enough, you know. Here are your gods, Israel. These brought you up out of the land of Egypt." So he set one up in Bethel, and the people went in procession all the way then to Dan in front of the other. He set up the temple of these 2 high places and appointed priests. Now the way it's written here, it's a little bit as though they're going to worship those golden calves, as in the story that we're just looking at the moment, but it wouldn't have been so. They would have been like the cherubim. There would have been places where the divinity would come. There'd be places where we would meet God. So behind this story of the golden calf may be a little bit of a polemic against the northern kingdom, who had those calves, golden calves, in the 2 royal sanctuaries there. Maybe that. So it's not quite as clear-cut. There's a complicated literary history behind this apparent episode. Just a little point there. But as we read it, as it's placed here in the context of the 10 Commandments have just been given, and immediately they make this golden calf, and the way it's written here, they worship it. Something extraordinary is being said by this book, by the writers of this book, around the year 600, 500 BC. They're saying this: at Israel's most sacred moment, at the theophany, where God appears to them and hands them his law, at that sacred moment there's rebellion and apostasy. At the heart of the sacred tradition is Israel's disobedience and falling from the God of glory into idolatry, worshipping a grass-eating ox. And it's the fundamental sin. Every human being, as they look at God, are so prone to have a little bit of superstition or magic or wrong thinking, and the God they're worshipping may not be the real God, because we fashion God into our own image in some way. Or we give to material things, money, whatever, almost the obedience we give to God. So we do that ourselves. Sometimes we place the church before God. And we've seen that. You can see that happen all through church history. People are more committed to the church than they are to God. Sometimes we're committed to our beliefs, whether they're conservative or progressive. Sometimes we think this is the only way to go and the other crowd are all stupid and wrong. That's a sign that we're committed to an ideology, and that's not to God. Because there's a world of difference between faith, which we really can't describe and talk about too much, and all the trappings of religion. There's a world of difference. And yet we mistake sometimes religion for faith. In the 1930s, there was a fantastic debate in the Protestant church, Barth and Brunner and others, about the differences between faith and religion. And we know faith is an inner attitude. Religion is all those external things, doctrines, dogmas, practices, prayers, everything else we do. And they help us to God, but they're not faith in God. All through the church too, we've struggled with images. Images. And there's always been a sense in Judaism and in Islam that we really can't picture God in any way. In Christianity, we've been comfortable with images and statues and pictures, holy pictures, all of that. But at a couple of times in our history, we've had massive reactions